I think we should probably, and we should hold this standard to Republicans and Democrats, that we should
Yes.
not let politics get in the way of enforcing the law. If we have someone who's hyper corrupt, who's like taking monetary incentives from a foreign country to give them preferential treatment.
Guys.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you?
You know,
Hey, it's Friday.
true. Hard to be too upset about that.
Exactly.
So are you an agreeer, disagreeer, Trump supporter? What's up?
I am a Trump supporter.
Okay.
And I guess the only thing that my biggest question is, with everything that is being brought to light, why aren't people more upset about that? I mean, you have a lot more Democrats focusing on Elon Musk and Trump for what they're doing versus what's being brought to light. I just don't get it.
I'd say there's two parts to that. The first part is the way that they're getting the information that they're purportedly getting, I think is really bad and probably violates a couple laws. I don't think we want to normalize like huge government overreach to find illegal information. I don't think we want to normalize violating the law to find violations of or alleged violations of other laws. And then the second part is that there's some questions about even the reliability of the information that Elon Musk is putting out right now, because it seems like the only thing corroborating any of this information that Elon is putting out is the fact that Elon put it out. So there's not really a whole ton backing him other than just taking Elon's word for it, which I am not super keen to do. And then also it seems like there's some legal, let's say, questionability about what's going on right now.
Okay.
So in the same way that like, if the government were to put a camera in my brain, so he could see everything that I was doing, and then prosecute me if I was, doing a bunch of illegal actions, we would probably say like, yeah, but we don't want the government putting chips in our brains to find that out, We don't want like huge government overreach, like violating laws that are put there to prevent corruption, to find corruption.
Well, you have an unconventional president. This guy's he's not a politician, he's a businessman. Both of them. And I think that because for so long, this has been the norm of everything and everybody just accepting things the way they are, you have to step out of the box to bring that corruption to light.
Well, do you think the box that they have to step out of is like criminal law or like the statutes that hold their power?
I think that the people are hiding and using the statutes to take advantage of us.
But wait, can you answer that question? Do you think that it's permissible to let the president basically ignore criminal statutes that hold his power because he wants to find corruption?
No, I think that is stepping over the line. But you have to look at the big picture.
You kind of have to look at the big picture, but at the same time, I don't want to violate all of the laws that bind our president in order to find the big picture. Especially when there's like constitutionally permissible ways to go about this, and they are just not following those.
But those ways are just not working. It seems like historically, every other president before him, and there have been videos and documents to state this, to justify it, they have said, we need to weed out the corruption, we need to cut down on spending, we need to do this and that. But it's all just smoke. They've never done it.
Well, the reason is because the people vote in all of the people in Congress and the people vote in the president. And when we're making the budget, the president isn't the only person who has the authority to say what's in that budget. It's also the other people that we elected in Congress. So if people were actually super concerned about cutting down the spending, they would vote for different Congress people who they would force their Congress people to have more, adherence to that kind of thing. But right now it seems like we're just willing to put all of our faith in one person in order to find corruption, which is kind of I think against the American way. I think that
Yeah.
I feel like putting so much power in one person, even if you think he's doing some good things, I would say I need more evidence of that. But
Well, if you sit back and look at all the politicians and their salaries compared to their net worth, how do you justify that?
um, well, that kind of stuff isn't even what Elon is investigating. Elon isn't investigating independent Congress people. He's investigating where the budget goes.
It's next.
Well, you could say it's next, but then the problem is that Elon doesn't have authority to look at that either. That would be something that's responsible to the DOJ.
DOJ, correct.
So then that would be fully independent of Elon Musk.
Right. But the point is, it's happening. Now, we have speculation that is happening. We just need to prove. But common sense kind of dictates. If I make $150,000 a year, but my net worth is $240 million, come on now.
And
It's easy to connect the dots.
if they can find probable cause, I'm in support of investigating stuff like that. Now, granted, you need to find probable cause first, but yeah, if they can find probable cause, I'm fine with that. The problem, again, is that right now it seems like we're kind of ignoring a lot of the things that would allow these powers to be designated to the president just because in the name of efficiency. I don't think that's a there's a saying that's basically like, oh, well, if you want an efficient system, the most efficient system is a dictatorship because there's one person who isn't bound by things like law. If we want to just maximize efficiency, we should just have a dictator. But that's not the American way. I don't think we want to centralize all of the power in one person just in the name of efficiency.
No, and I would agree with that.
But it seems like, so I don't listen. I'm a nerd. I follow this really heavily. There's a lot of lawsuits going on against Elon Musk, against the Treasury, against Trump, that are real big causes for concern. And there's even like evidence that Donald Trump is kind of ignoring some of the court orders that are coming back in those cases. And I think that also, especially when I'm focusing on Donald Trump trying to basically usurp power or gain power past what we think that a president should have. And when he's starting to ignore court orders, I think that's really big cause for concern.
Well, I think he feels like, hey, I've only got 4 more years. I'm going out with a bang. I've got a lot of people to get back for what they put him through, and I know a lot of it's personal.
Could we agree that it's bad though? Like, even if it is like personally, I want to get back at all the people that wronged me. That would be something that the president shouldn't be doing. Like just retribution for the sake of it.
No, it's not. I would agree with that.
I would agree with that. So that would be
But how do you feel as a taxpayer?
How do I feel as a taxpayer about the wasteful spending?
Yeah, about wasteful spending.
I think that it ultimately comes down to, I think people view engagement in politics as something that is kind of taboo. Being like knowledgeable about politics as something that's kind of taboo. And I think that if we want to cut down on spending, what we should do is elect more competent Congress people, or elect more people that would be more responsible with how we allocate the budget. Because all of the quote unquote wasteful spending that I've seen has been legally allocated by Congress or by the president. So if we want to, as taxpayers, like kind of, fight back against that, we need to elect more competent people. But I don't think the answer is basically installing an authoritarian to, cut all of the wasteful spending unilaterally and set the precedent that that's an okay thing for an okay way for American democracy to function.
Gotcha. No, I agree with you there.
Yeah, well, that's most of my. I mean, obviously, so I do these debates a lot. I get kind of fiery. I think there's a little bit more to it than that. I think Trump is like a pretty big threat to the way that we function. I think he has been since at least 2020. I ultimately, like, when a lot of like conservatives come in and talk to me about problems about like corruption within the government, about, you know, like wasteful spending, about stuff like that, I ultimately agree with a lot of their grievances. The problem is that one, I don't think Donald Trump's the right person to address that. Two, I think Donald Trump is deeply embedded within it. I think he is also wildly corrupt. And three, I don't think that they have a good idea on how to address that other than basically selling your rights away.
I mean, I get that. You don't make it to his status level without breaking some laws and not getting caught. There's a lot of people like that, that they are where they are financially because they sidestepped the system and just didn't get caught.
I would say Trump is particularly bad with it. And I mean, we can see it in, I don't know if you've heard about this, but recently Donald Trump just paused the enforcement of a law that basically prohibited politicians from taking gifts from foreign governments. I need to look up real quick what the name specifically of that law was, but it was, give me 1 second, the Foreign Corruption Practices Act. He just completely paused the enforcement of that. I feel like if you're someone who wants to root out corruption, that would probably be one of the last things that you would want to do.
I would agree with that.
And then also the deal with have you heard about the Eric Adams stuff?
New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard
About how like he was taking improper gifts from Turkey, I think. And
right.
Now Donald Trump is basically saying, I will drop these charges as long as you enforce my immigration policy. I can't think of many things more corrupt than that.
Yeah, I heard the governor the other day, and I think he's an opportunist also. He sits back and sees he's under the gun, and he's taking advantage of the situation by saying, hey, you support my agenda, I'll make this go away.
Yeah, but I would say that I think we should probably, and we should hold this standard to Republicans and Democrats, that we should not let politics get in the way of enforcing the law. If we have someone who's hyper corrupt, who's like taking monetary incentives from a foreign country to give them preferential treatment, we should enforce that law. There shouldn't be any getting around that law because you agree to play politics. I think that's bad.
Yeah, definitely. How do you feel about our government spending $700 a night on a hotel for illegal immigrants?
I never looked into that. If I'm being honest, my skeptic brain tells me there's probably a little more to it than that, or that it probably wasn't for like just normal illegal immigrants. But I'd have to see. That's something that I don't want to comment on because I never looked into it.
Okay.
But yeah, also, I mean, like the main thing that I typically argue, because I'm someone who, if it wasn't for, Donald Trump being the Republican nominee right now, I probably wouldn't be talking about politics all this much. But I do think that Donald Trump is particularly bad, and I think all of the stuff in surrounding the 2020 election was like almost unforgivable. No, not almost. It was unforgivable. I know that there's a lot of like propaganda on both sides that float around that event, but I think it's a lot worse than even a lot of Democrats would be willing to say just because it sounds crazy and unbelievable. But okay, so walk with me through this. There is the Attorney General. He's the acting Attorney General because he wasn't confirmed by the Senate. His name was Jeffrey Rosen. But he was serving in his capacity as the Attorney General, right?
Yeah.
And his the person working under him, the Deputy Attorney General, his name was Richard Donahue, right?
Right.
So Donald Trump comes to Jeffrey Rosen and he says, hey, I have this letter that was written by this guy named Jeffrey Clark who works under you. and it alleges that the Department of Justice was finding major infractions about the 2020 election, and I need you to send this letter to all of the states basically telling them their election was stolen. And the Attorney General says, well, we can't do that because we haven't found any evidence that the election was stolen. This just isn't something that we've found as the Department of Justice. And Trump says, okay. He asked them to send the letter a couple more times. And keep in mind also, Rosen and Donahue are appointments from Donald Trump. Donald Trump put them in this position. He asked them to send the letter a couple more times, and they say no. And then what Donald Trump does is he says, okay, Rosen, I am going to fire you. You are fired. And I'm going to put Jeffrey Clark in your place, so he will send this letter. And then the only reason that never happened was because half of the Department of Justice threatened to quit if Jeffrey Rosen was fired and Jeffrey Clark was put as the Attorney General. So basically what this was Donald Trump asking the Attorney General to say things that they had no evidence to confirm to the states in order to get them to overturn their election results. And when he wouldn't agree to do that, he tried to replace him with somebody else who would. I think that shows unique dishonesty. I think that shows a pretty wild level of corruption. Randall, I'll invite you. I think something like that is pretty unforgivably bad.
Okay. Can you let Randall in? I think he's trying to join.
Yeah, I sent him an invite up. He's saying it won't let him. I'll send him another invite just in case, but I'm trying my best.
Oh, no worries.
The rest of it's just user error, I think. But yeah, something like that is, I think, particularly bad. I don't think that there's anything akin to that on the Democrat side, for as bad as some Democrat stuff is. I don't think there's anything akin to that on our side. And the fact that the RNC, after all of that comes to light, decides to run him as the primary nominee again, I think is really bad.
Yeah.
And all of this, like, Rosen testified to this, Donahue testified to this. We have the letter that Trump was trying to send. We have a lot of evidence of this. Yeah, that when I heard about that, I had thought that it wasn't true just because of how unbelievable it was, but then I started looking into all of the stuff surrounding it, and the pieces fell into place, and it was insane. Someone said, are you talking about the false electors plot? So the false electors plot is like tangentially related, but it's not quite the same thing. I'm talking about the Attorney General letter, which goes hand in hand. It's all a conspiracy, but not conspiracy as in it's not true, but conspiracy as in it's like a coordinated plot. But it's like kind of related. And obviously, like, I wouldn't expect you to, have a concrete opinion on that yet because it's just my word. But I would recommend you look into that. If you look up Jeffrey Rosen, Jeffrey Clark, you should get like a plethora of things to look into. I would say that that's something, especially if you are concerned about corruption. I would highly advise you look into that.
Definitely.
TikTok won't give me live access. Oh, he probably went on another live and then got reported. If TikTok is saying that you don't have live access, that means that somebody reported you and you got your live access revoked. Yep. I'm just back from that. It happens. How can I join? You can't. You just have to wait for your restrictions to be lifted. I wish you could. Listen, I go live a lot. I just got off of a week or two suspension. He has one person. He has he's following one person that has no followers. Oh yeah, that probably wouldn't be good either. I'd want
Well,
to
either
talk to
way,
him
it's
a
good
bit more.
talking to you.
Yeah, it was good talking to you too.
Try to have a great weekend, bro.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
I am the good faith hat. The good faith hat is working. I need to keep this on. I need to calm my ass down.